FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried was sent to jail on Friday. This is now ahead of his October trial after a federal judge revoked his bond. We're going to talk to Nick Day about this, CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor, who's also the editor of CoinDesk's State of Crypto newsletter. Good morning, Nick.
Hey, good morning. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Now, I'm sure it was a very busy weekend for you after we learned that Sam Bankman-Fried is going back to jail on Friday. Talk to us about what was going on in that courtroom. Paint a picture. What happened on Friday?
Yeah, so Friday, with his parents in the audience, Sam Bankman-Fried learned that, after a hour and a half or so hearing, he would be remanded to jail until the trial, and whatever preparation he's going to have to do, whatever plans he might have had, he will now have to do so behind bars. The judge, basically was not having it with his defense team's arguments after he allegedly leaked Carolyn Ellison, the former Alameda Research CEO, and his ex-girlfriend's private diary to the New York Times, saying that there were no set of conditions that might keep him from being a danger to the public, and therefore he's getting remanded immediately.
He must have known. What did his face look like? I mean, did you get to see his reactions on any of this, or you just saw the back of his head?
Well, I was sitting behind him. After the judge read out his verdict, he, looked down for a while. You could tell that his family, his parents in particular, seemed pretty upset, as I would imagine any parent would be. For the first several, long seconds after the judge read the verdict, Sam Bankman-Fried was just looking down. Eventually, he looked up as his attorneys said that they, A, plan to file an appeal, and B, motion to stay the detention order until that appeal was heard. That stay was denied immediately after a very brief 30-second back and forth between the defense attorneys and the prosecution. After that, it was pretty straightforward. The marshals in the audience right behind him asked him to take off his jacket, I think unbutton his cufflinks, and then they handcuffed him and escorted him out.
Yeah, and I'm sure that must have felt humiliating, taking out, definitely when you have to take off your belt buckle, and that's probably the worst part of the getting arrested. But that's a different story. Do you get the sense, though, that his defense attorneys, did you notice any interactions with them? Obviously, this has been some time now, a few days, but clearly this was, leaking those diaries probably wasn't something they had on their list of to-do things for Sam, was it?
Yeah, and while I haven't spoken to Sam's own attorneys about this, I have spoken to other former prosecutors and lawyers who say that part of the challenge for a defense attorney is controlling their client, and this is one of those cases where it does not appear that happened. And so, I think you could tell right from the outset of the hearing that the vibe was kind of everyone was expecting him to go to jail. No one was expecting anything else. You had extra marshals in the courtroom than, more than you usually did. You had several with handcuffs and, all the gear walking in right at the beginning, sitting down in the front immediately behind Bankman-Fried and his defense team. This is one of those things where every moment felt like an inevitability. There was no situation where he was going to walk free, it seemed. And that's what we saw play out.
What's the likelihood of an appeal here? It's August now. The trial's supposed to start in October. What's the likelihood he gets out of jail before that October trial?
I think that's going to be up to the appeal court. The appeal has been filed. It was filed on Friday itself. So, the circuit, I believe it's the Second Circuit Court of Appeals has that. But it'll be up to them to decide, A, whether they want to take it, B, if they want to hold a hearing on that, and see what that timing looks like. But as you said, it's only 2 months. It's a very brief amount of time. And this is a detention hearing for a judge who, at least in his words, doesn't get overturned on appeal that often. So, I think there's a possibility we'll see, more documents in consideration of this, but it seems unlikely he's going to get out in, the immediate future.
He's over in Boerum Hill. It's pretty, the rent there is pretty high. So, at least he's got cheap rent.
Nick?
Yeah, free to him.
I got to ask you, did the judge sound annoyed at all that this was happening, that there's so much back and forth over what Sam Bankman-Fried is doing on social media, and that, there had to continuously be amendments to the bail conditions?
I don't know if annoyed's the right word for it. He was very deliberate about how he spoke. The actual order in which he revoked Bankman-Fried's bail, he gave it verbally. It was, I think, at least 20 minutes, and it was just him going through, every piece of evidence and argument that he was considering. So he walked through, for example, the prosecution's assertion that he reached out to the former FTX U.S. General Counsel Ryan Miller, possibly current general counsel, I'm not sure. But he reached out to Ryan Miller. He walked through both the prosecution's arguments as well as the defense's arguments about that. And in his view, debunked the defense arguments over that particular, contact. He walked through the leaking of the diary. He even walked through the VPN usage that Sam Bankman-Fried did, and saying that, while in and of itself, that's not necessarily innocuous, it does speak to Bankman-Fried's mindset of how he's approaching this trial. And, saying that he's willing to walk, across the line to try and find out where that line is. And he's willing to do that repeatedly. Basically saying, in many words, that he does believe that Bankman-Fried is not just kind of, merely accidentally stepping across, doing things that aren't, he's not supposed to, but that he's deliberately probing to see how far he can go, how much he can get away with.
Wow.
And yeah, he was very deliberate about that. It wasn't, his tone was measured. It wasn't annoyed. It wasn't, exasperated. It was just, here are the facts, and here's my decision.
So what he's basically saying is, gee, I'm shocked that the guy who ran FTX, thinks he knows everything about everything still.
Yeah, I think you can definitely make that interpretation from what happened on Friday. And if you read the transcript, which I imagine will be out soon, and we'll have more about that this week. But he's definitely. I think he lost his patience for sure. Again, remember the last hearing that we saw the judge warn Bankman-Fried at the very end that he has to take all these proceedings seriously. It's clearly something that he still believes, and he's not sure Bankman-Fried will.
Hubris. That's the term. Yeah. Hubris.
All right, Nick. We're going to leave it there. Thanks for joining the show this morning, and great reporting.
Thank you.
That was CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day. Don't forget to sign up for the State of Crypto newsletter on CoinDesk.com.